What's up, YouTube? I'm about to hit the road and head over to Freedom Power Sports. I got the bike here. And I want to do a time-lapse video because I still don't have my mic. Nobody has any mic adapters at all. GoPro don't even have them in stock right now. So I'm going to have to wait a little while before I actually get to the real moto vlogs. But right now I'll do a time-lapse video to get over there. And I'll explain to you guys what my first impressions are of every bike that I test out today. So let's go. So what's up, guys? We're gonna go ahead and eat some mod pizza, and it's been a great day to ride. I've seen a lot of motorcycles out, and I will be able to get hopefully be able to get a mic adapter soon so I can get some real moto vlogs. So after this, we'll do another time lapse and headed to the house. Peace. Get her in there!
No, I don't think it'll go anywhere. Unless there's like an earthquake or like...
Thanks. Oh, man. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let you know this is the actual next night after the demo day. This is Sunday night. I got a little busy last night and I had to do some things that came up. I'm going to go over some things that I like and dislike about the two bikes that I rode at demo day. I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying they would not let me film during the demo day. They wouldn't let me take the camera on my helmet at all. But them's the breaks sometimes. But I'm going to go ahead and say I rode the MT-09 and I rode the R6. Now I got lucky enough to ride the R6 because the guy that was going to ride the R6 during the time that I was going on a demo ride he actually didn't show up, so they let me ride the R6. But I'm going to start off with the R6, and before I really start with it, I'm going to let you guys know that is not my type of motorcycle as far as what I like to ride. I'm a big guy. I'm 6 foot tall. I weigh about 270, and that kind of bike does not fit me properly. I'm very much more of an upright type bike person. And start with dislikes. The seating position is one of my dislikes on it. You're in a seating position where you're leaned over all the time and all your weight is on your forearms, and that gets tiring. Just after the 15-20 minute demo ride that we did, it was tiring and it hurt my back already. Like I'm sure you might get used to this stuff if you have it every day, but I just can't see myself as riding that bike as a daily rider. My feet, the pegs were so far up on the bike, I felt like I was literally in a fetal position the whole time riding it, and I didn't even feel like I was on the bike. I felt like I was just holding on to the top of a bike while it was pulling me along. I don't know how to explain it other than when I'm riding my bike, I feel like I'm almost in the bike, like I'm comforted into it. And the R6 was more like you're just hanging on to the top of it. It didn't feel natural whatsoever for me, but it might be just because I'm not used to riding that type of bike. But the second thing I don't like about the R6 is the power and how it comes on, which I know this is because, like I said, I'm used to riding the torquier super naked bikes. I'm used to riding 4-stroke dirt bikes. I'm used to that power being on as soon as you hit the throttle at the low RPMs. And the R6 isn't like that. It's the power, it hits the power band like way on up in the rev range. And I'm just not, when I was taking a right turn, I was in 4th gear. I was taking a right turn and I dropped it down to 3rd, and it didn't want to keep going. Like, I had to drop it down to 2nd for me to even, get some torque to go on down the road. But I don't like that. That's just me. I can't help it. I like how I can just drop it 1 gear on my bike and just, lug it on along, which I probably shouldn't do that, but it's easier to do that with that low end torque. So that's 2 things I don't like about the R6. The third thing I don't like about the R6 is the gauge cluster. The gauge cluster on the R6 is, most of your crotch rockets are like this, but the gauge cluster is pushed all the way up under your windscreen. But this one was so busy, it was almost like it was just trying to tell you everything about the bike. I don't know, maybe I was just looking too deep into it, but it took me like 20-25 seconds to figure out where the gear indicator was. So I was having trouble with that. I don't know, it was just too busy for me. And also with the sun hitting it and everything, I couldn't see a thing hardly with that gauge cluster. It was too far up in there, and it just, I don't know, I didn't like it. That's all I can say about it. Things that I did like about the R6, number 1 is handling. Oh my goodness, the thing could handle like a dream. I've never felt so confident on going into a corner than I did on that R6. Even though the seating position was so
not me, the confidence you had turning into a corner was amazing, and I loved that. It was awesome. The second thing I like about the R6, and I'm going to show the picture here now, the bike is amazing looking. I'm a Suzuki fan. I have been since I was just a kid, because that's what I rode most of my life. This thing looks better than the GSX R600. I love the look of this bike. It just flows so well. The third thing that I love about this bike is the sound. The sound is amazing. Whenever I figured out that the bike needed to be in a high RPM to really get going, I was keeping it in the high RPM just to hear the motorcycle go. It was so nice to hear that, and it was a stock exhaust on it too. That was what's so crazy. We're gonna go to the MT-09 likes. Now, I'm just gonna say, you might say that I'm partial to this bike or whatever. I don't care. I love my upright naked bike. I really wanted to ride this bike because I would like to look into getting one maybe in the next year or two. I wanted to also ride it to see if I made a mistake in only getting the MT-07. I'm gonna go ahead and start. The first thing I like, when I sat on that bike, I noticed something right then. It is 10 times more comfortable than my MT-07. I loved how comfortable that bike was. It was so nice and comfortable. Next thing I liked was the handling and the lightness. So it has the handling and the lightness like my MT-07. It was just flickable. You could just, where you pointed it, it went. The third thing I liked about the MT-09 was the same thing I liked about the R6, the sound. That 3-cylinder engine is amazing. There was one point where when I was riding the MT-09, there was a guy riding the R6 who we had talked before the demo ride. He actually owns an older model MT-09, which is the FZ09 here in the States. And he was riding the R6 just to see if he might want to get another R6, because he used to have one. And he comes around me and he starts playing with me, and he runs off trying to get me to follow him. And when he does, I get in it, and when I do, both of our bikes side by side just sounded beautiful. Of course, I let off of it real quick because it scared the snot out of me. Things that I do not like about the MT-09 is, one, and this is shared with my MT-07, I cannot stand the mirrors that they put on this bike. It's something that I can easily fix, and bar end mirrors are cheap enough to do it. I'm a big guy, like I said earlier, and I've got broad shoulders, so when I'm riding and I'm trying to see what's behind me, because I've got a habit of looking straight behind. I want to see what's coming up behind me if I'm stopping at a stop sign or a stoplight, to see if the person behind me sees that I'm stopping and he don't run into me. And it's hard to do that with those mirrors. I'm having to always just move my arm to the sides just to see behind me, and it's not a big deal really, but it's just a pain. So if I was to get an MT-09, just like with my MT-07, I plan on getting bar end mirrors. Another thing I do not like about the MT-09 is the throttle feel. It felt like it was loose, and this thing has been used at demo days, I'm sure, across the country. It had 800 something miles on it when I looked at it, but my throttle doesn't feel that loose. I don't know if it's the MT-09 in general or if just it's been rode by so many different people, but it was really loose. Like, I could twist it and then it'd get into it. I'm sure a different throttle tube would help with that. This is going to be the most nitpicky thing about this motorcycle that I didn't like, and that is the kickstand. When I threw the kickstand down and moved it or linked it over, it did not feel like it was going to hold that motorcycle up. And that might just be over all, you know, going across the country with this thing and all the wear and tear from different riders using the kickstand and whatnot, but it did not feel like it wanted to hold that bike up. So those are the things that I liked and disliked about both motorcycles that I rode this weekend. I had a ton of fun riding these motorcycles. I plan on doing another demo day in the future, as many as I can actually. It's not a good way to review bikes, but it's fun to get the first impression of these motorcycles that way. And they do let you get on it just a little bit. They don't let you go wild, of course, but they do let you have a little fun on them and, you know, do a little pull here and there. Also, before I leave, I'm going to go ahead and say I've got a mic and a mic adapter coming this Friday, and I will be doing an actual moto vlog next weekend. Now this whole week I will probably not doing a daily vlog. The reason being is because I'm dedicated. You've seen pretty much what I do last week, so I'm just going to probably put out 1 or 2 videos this week, and then once my mic adapter gets in this Friday and everything, I want to set it up on my helmet, and I'm going to get you guys a couple of vlogs in this weekend. One of the vlogs is going to be with my cousin Philip. We're going to go down to Caffeine and Octane in Atlanta, and that should be pretty fun. I'm going to get some footage on that day. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.